truthfully?
I understand she's got to answer the questions. If I allow the questions, she must answer them. And I'm sure she will. And if she doesn't, then...
I'm not asking you, Chairperson. I'm just saying that does she understand that she has to answer the questions truthfully? That's the question I was asking.
I take the answer that yes.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, well, like that long ago,
how must I conduct this cross-examination? Must I ask her or must I...
We had a cross-examination like that from Mr. Bearser long ago. I don't think it's necessary to repeat it every time, but carry on with your cross-examination.
And do you understand the implications of a person like you giving false evidence?
Mr. Chairman, I have no intention of giving false evidence.
Yes, but despite that...
That's not the question. The question is, do you understand the implications if you do give false evidence?
Mr. Chairman, I took an oath in this particular commission, and by implication it means exactly that.
Yes.
Yes. And you know that Mr. Ramaphosa also gave evidence here, and he took an oath as well, and also an oath of office, like you, correct?
I can't answer on behalf of him, Mr. Chairman.
No, but you were present when he took the oath of office.
Mr. Chairman, oath of office I know.
Yes. Okay, fine. Then I can tell you, you can take it from me that he also took an oath here. Now, Mr. Ramaphosa says under oath that you changed your characterization of the situation at Lonmin, and you say under oath that you did not change the characterization. So one of you must be telling a falsity. Is it him or is it you?
Mr. Chairman, I've made my submission. I can't do it on behalf of Mr. Ramaphosa.
No. I accept that, Minister. All I'm saying is that you say you never changed your characterization. So anyone who says you changed your characterization is lying.
It doesn't follow.
Can you leave that for argument?
No, Mr. It's not a proper question. It doesn't follow from the fact that the witnesses' evidence conflict that one or the other is lying. There's also the possibility that one of them is mistaken.
Yes, I know, Chairperson, but cross-examination, I'm sure you've heard this one before, Chairperson. If there's a statement by one witness and another witness, then you ask the other witness. It happens every day in all the courts in our country.
Put it on the basis it follows, I understood you, that it follows that one of the two of you must be lying, and I jibbed at that.
Okay. All right. You say that you never changed your characterization, and he says that you did. And if we exclude the possibility of anyone making a mistake, then one of you is lying, correct?
It's your own words, Mr. Mpofu. Mr. Chairman, I haven't lied. I've presented myself to this commission.
Yes, no, okay. And if we accept that, then he's the one who's presenting something that is not factually true.
Mr. Chairman, I can answer on behalf of Mr. Ramaphosa.
No,
At the end of the day,
not just Mr. Ramaphosa,
at the end of
anybody.
At the end of the day, it's a finding we may have to make. You address submissions to us in that regard, and we will have to make the finding unless we find there's a scope for genuine misunderstanding or mistake. But I think it's a little bit unfair to expect the witness to, as it were, express a value judgment regarding the evidence of another witness, particularly a value judgment of the kind that you've mentioned. You've made your point. You have all the material on record for which you can make all the submissions you wish at the appropriate time.
Chairperson, it's also unfair. You know, people died in this thing, and there are people who were seriously injured. And it's unfair on them for witnesses to be allowed not to answer questions. They want to know the truth. And they want to know if the opposite of the truth is if someone is not telling the truth. And they want to know that too. They are entitled to it. That's what it says behind you there, Chairperson. Truth, restoration, and justice.
By implication,
so the opposite of truth is lies.
No. Opposite of truth is inaccuracy, which can either be deliberate or not deliberate.
Yes.
Okay. The witness, by implication, has answered your question. When you put to her the alternatives, she said, well, I am telling the truth. So you don't need to be a rocket scientist to follow what the consequence of that answer is.
Well, and I'll ask you this. If either you or Mr. Ramaphosa is not telling the truth, you also understand the serious implications of that under oath?
Well, I am under oath, and all what I've said is truthful.
All right. Then you said that, well, let's go to the issue of the characterization. It's quite clear that Mr. Ramaphosa's mission to meet with you was for you to change your characterization. Whether it was a successful mission or not is another matter. But you can tell that that was one of his missions, correct?
He never said he intends to, Mr. Chairman, he intends to change or influence me on the characterization, because the issue of characterization of the situation was never mentioned to me, or his intention to influence me was never there.
Yes, but you said that your intention was to only articulate your change of the characterization after you had spoken to the president, correct?
Mr. Chairman, I indicated at the beginning that I have never changed the characterization. My explanation earlier on was that the labor dispute continued, but as it escalates, then there was an element or the criminality which started cropping in. Hence, I mentioned that if you read my statement, it also talks about escalation of violence as a concern.
Please answer the question. Did you say that you had intended to change your characterization only after speaking to the president or not?
Mr. Chairman, I've never said I've changed the characterization.
No. Did you say that you would mention the fact that the situation now needed the intervention of the Minister of Police only after meeting with the president? Did you say that this morning?
Mr. Chairman, I've never said only after I've met with the Minister of Police. I said I'm going to brief. There was no either or in my answer.
No. You were asked by Mr. Nkaitobi, and you said that you would, although you only said to Mr. Gwala that it was a labor dispute, it was in anticipation that you would only articulate the fuller view once you had met with the president. You said that. It's on the record. Are you denying that?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I indicated that I will brief the president. And when I was asked earlier on, I stated that because Mr. Xolani Gwala is a real personnel and he was talking to the broader community, I could not divulge everything. I just made sure that I focus on the part of a labor dispute. But at the back of my mind, I was clear that I'll brief the president fully. And I've sort of tried to qualify the reasons why I couldn't go public on saying exactly what is it that I was going to tell the president.
And yet, before you met with the president, you indicated to Mr. Ramaphosa that you agreed with him.
Well,
correct?
I agreed with Mr. Ramaphosa that because we're talking about the violence which was happening, or 10 people who had already died in that space.
And when you agreed with him, you agreed with his characterization, which was that it was not a labor dispute.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think earlier on I clarified that when we spoke about it, you cannot isolate the labor dispute, even if there was an issue of people who were killed. It never stopped being a labor dispute. I think I explained that earlier on, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, but Mr. Ramaphosa's view was not that. We've gone through that. I gave him the ABC and the hybrid and all that. The view articulated in the emails by him was that it was not, in capital letter, a labor dispute at all.
Well, Mr. Chairman, the email which I've just seen during these proceedings was an email sent to Lonmin and never shared with me or gave me an opportunity to say yeah or no.
No. All right. Mr. Ramaphosa's statement is FF 32. If you can bring up paragraph 13.5. This is what he said under oath. This is the exact point I'm making. We need to find out which one was telling the truth under oath. He says that, I also discussed the matter with Minister of Mineral Resources, that's you. The import of my discussion with her was to bring to her attention the increasing acts of violence taking place at Marikana, which in Lonmin's view were criminal and which were not going to be resolved without political intervention. Did you get those two? Did you agree with those two statements? They were criminal and were not going to be resolved without political intervention.
Well, I don't remember hearing Mr. Ramaphosa to say it needs a political intervention.
Okay, if you don't remember, it means it's possible that it happened.
Well, Mr. Mpofu, that's your own assumption.
Yeah, and then he goes on to say, Minister Shabangu agreed with Lonmin's characterization of the situation. Again, I've told you what Lonmin's characterization of the situation was. That it was not a labor dispute at all. It was a criminal act which needed the army or the police. Is it true what is said here under oath that you agreed with Lonmin's characterization of the situation?
Once more, Mr. Chairman, can I state I've expressed myself for the characterization of the situation, but also I neither employee or employer of Lonmin. Hence, what was discussed between Mr. Ramaphosa and Lonmin, I can confirm.
Yes. No, I'm sorry. Maybe I'm not clear. He's busy discussing what was agreed between you and him. Nothing to do. He says, Minister Shabangu, that is you, agreed with Lonmin's characterization of the situation. Is that true or false?
Mr. Chairman, I can't say yeah or no, because for me this is a hearsay. I was not there, and I never agreed with Lonmin's characterization. I don't even know where was it characterized.
And he goes on to say, and indicated to me that she would bring the matter to the attention of the cabinet and the president. Is that true or false?
Well, I said I'll bring the matter to the attention of the president and the Minister of Police.
And I think, forgive me if you've already answered this one, but did you also tell him that the Minister of Police would be asked to act in a more pointed way?
Well, I don't understand what is this pointed way. Once more.
Mr. Ramaphosa used, you see, in his email.
He might have...
In relation to you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm trying to say this pointed way. If you say you're going to raise something with a person, that's what I said, but a pointed way, because for me, when you say pointed way, it's like a particular direction. So that was not my intention. My intention was to raise it with the minister.
You simply say, I'll raise it with the minister, or did you go further and say, give an indication of what you were going to say to the minister?
Well, I was going to say there's violence going on, but also the industry is getting affected as a whole because of the violence or the killings around Marikana. And the issue which was of concern was also to say, are the police in that particular space? You know, but my intention was to make sure that because I don't have that authority to tell another minister what to do, nor tell the president what to do. But my responsibility is to raise the matters with them.
Yeah. I'll ask you something slightly different. What did you tell Mr. Ramaphosa what you intended to say to the minister, or did you simply say, I'll discuss the matter with the minister, I'll raise it with him, and no more?
Mr. Chairman, I said I will raise the issue without going into detail. What is it that I was going to raise with the president, nor the Minister of Police?
In an answer to Mr. Ngokaitobi this morning, you said that when you spoke to Mr. Xolani Gwala, you did not think at that stage the situation needed the intervention of the police, correct?
I repeat, I said because Mr. Gwala was on radio and in the public space, I could not raise everything. I only focused on the labor dispute to say this is a labor dispute which needs the parties to come together. That's what I said in the morning, and I even went further to say the reason I did not say that because I had still to consult with the Minister of Police, with the President. Hence, I could not characterize that as in that particular way because I would have gone beyond my own mandate.
And, well, okay, well, I don't understand it, but let's move on. Mr. Ramaphosa said to you that your silence and inaction about what was happening at Lonmin was bad for you and for the government.
Well, that was his own observation. I agree.
You agree with what? Do you agree that it was bad for you?
Well, that's his own option. I'm saying I agree that he did say that to me.
And did you agree with him that it was bad for you and the government?
Mr. Chairman, he made a statement which I never responded to.
Well, now I'm asking you, do you agree with you that your silence and inaction was bad for you and the government?
Well, Mr. Mpofu, at that time, I decided that for us was good to keep quiet because the issues for us was more about labor dispute.
No, but that can't be true, Minister, because once Mr. Ramaphosa criticized you like this, your response was that you were going to rectify that problem. You were going to issue a statement.
Let me remind you, Mr. Chairman, let me remind Mr. Mpofu, when the issue of me issuing a statement arose, it arose on the basis of, if you look at it, there was a statement shown by SAPA, which was which was held on that particular day at 16:55. Already, I was in line with that because if you look at that already, I had made statements during the day to the various medias, which was published the following day.
Yeah,
or
but
the same day.
It was shown to you by Ms. Pillay that that could not have been the statement you were referring to, because you were saying you were going to issue a statement, and you spoke to Mr. Ramaphosa around 6 o'clock.
Well, Mr. Mpofu, if I can say to you, if that's not the statement, if I said I was going to issue a statement, it was on the basis of that we had already started talking to the media.
So once again, Mr. Ramaphosa is giving an incorrect picture when she says she said, she being you, that she was going to issue a statement. Because now you're telling us about a statement which was already issued by the time you spoke to Mr. Ramaphosa.
Well, Mr. Mpofu, during the day in Brakpan, I had already started issuing statements. And if you follow that, even if I had said I'm going to issue a statement, there was no further statement issued by me.
Yes, well, either you were misleading him or he was misleading Roger. That's what I want to know.
Well, a statement, I'm not committed to making a statement. If I say something and that doesn't happen, it doesn't mean, therefore, the intention, Mr. Chairman, was to mislead. There might have been other reasons which overtake the situation.
So did you then, when he criticized you for silence, you said you were going to issue a statement? Is that possible?
It was not arising out of Mr. Mpofu, out of the silence.
Well, he also complained, let's leave the silence for now. He also complained about inaction. So that one calls for action, correct?
Well, inaction can mean many things, Mr. Chairman. Already we had made a statement whilst we were at Brakpan, so I could not respond to an inaction because already we were starting to say something about the situation.
And he says he's going to be in Cape Town to have a discussion with you and see what you need to do. Why did you have to take orders from Mr. Ramaphosa about what you need to do?
Well, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mpofu might say it's an instruction. I understand as two parties, two adults, looking at a situation and agreeing to that, I don't think it's an instruction.
Well, Mr. Ramaphosa used the words, or at least he was asked to influence you, and this was part of that endeavor.
Well, Mr. Chairman, whoever asked him to influence me, Mr. Chairman, I think he failed to influence me because I was never influenced by him.
He was asked to influence you and encourage you.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I was never influenced by Mr. Ramaphosa.
Well, he reported that he did, that he succeeded in influencing you and encouraging you.
Well, I cannot say, Mr. Chairman, I know that because at the end of the day, the emails he wrote, it was about him and the company. What he writes there, I cannot confirm. For whatever reason he decided to say that he has influenced me, I can't see that being my responsibility because I never saw that until I come to this commission.
Do you accept that it would be unlawful for you as a minister to allow yourself to be influenced for somebody's personal or financial benefit?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm one person, if I may say, who is very, very independent. I was not influenced by Mr. Ramaphosa.
No, that's not what I'm asking you. Do you accept that it would be unlawful for you as a minister of state who has taken the oath to allow yourself to be influenced and encouraged by someone for financial gain?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I was never influenced. I'm a very independent person to be influenced by people who want to make gains out of me.
I'm asking the question for the last time. Do you accept that it would be unlawful for you as a minister of state who has taken the oath under the Constitution to allow yourself to be influenced politically by someone for financial gain?
Mr. Chairman, it has nothing to do what Mr. Mpofu is raising with me.
Okay, I'll take it you don't want to answer the question. Well, I'll answer it for you. It is not only unlawful, it is a criminal act. Do you know about the concept of abuse of power?
I know.
And you know that abuse of power is an element of corruption under the new act?
Well, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not aware that it becomes a corruption.
I am a lawyer, and I also happen to have been one of the people who helped to draft the new Prevention and Combating of Corruption Activities 12 of 2004, when I was the chairperson of the National Anti-Corruption Forum. And it says the following.
Referring to?
3, chairperson. Any person who directly or indirectly accepts, or I'll just jump the non-relevant parts, chairperson, just to save time. Any person who directly or indirectly gives or agrees or offers to give to any person any gratification, whether for the benefit of that other person or for the benefit of another person, in order to act personally or by influencing, that's the word that is in the emails, another person to act in a manner that amounts to misuse or selling of illegal, dishonest, unauthorized, incomplete, or biased exercise, carrying out the performance of any powers and so on, amounts to, or any other legal obligation which amounts to the abuse of a position of authority, which is what I'm accusing you of, is guilty of an offense of corruption. So it's a criminal offense. Were you aware of that?
Well, Mr. Mpofu, I haven't committed any criminal act, Mr. Chairman. I was never influenced. I'm still saying that. That's an insinuation.
No, all
from
I'm asking
Mr.
you
Mpofu.
is if I'm saying, and I accept that that is your answer. I'm saying that if a person in public authority would allow himself or herself to be influenced in the manner that is described for gratification, and you can accept that gratification includes financial gain, that would amount to corruption.
What is the financial gain which you are suggesting this witness was going to get?
No, it's not the witness, obviously, Chairperson. Okay, let me ask him. Do you understand that in corruption, you have to charge the corruptor and the corruptee?
That's your opinion, Mr. Mpofu.
What is your opinion? Do you think you just charge the corruptor or just the corruptee or both?
Mr.
Chairman, with
Chairperson.
respect, if I may just be allowed, with the greatest of respect to my learned friend, I don't see what the witness's opinion of the law might be of any interest to this commission. With respect, whatever the witness answers will not change the law, as your lordship pleases.
Okay. Yeah, no, thank you for that, Mr. Badenost. I'm not asking her about the law. I'm asking her, just as a Minister of State, whether she agrees that corruption involves a corruptor and a corruptee, and that both should be held liable.
You're asking for her views on the law.
No.
And
Her views on corruption.
yeah, no, you're talking about in the context of the Corruption Act.
Well,
Obviously, you have the person who does the bribing and the person who accepts the bribe. Both of them are guilty of criminal offences. That's right, isn't it?
that's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And to
Mr. Mpofu, I have difficulty following this. You say you don't accept, you're not suggesting that this witness was going to get any financial gratification. So, regarding the fact we're dealing with Mr. Ramaphosa on the one side and the witness on the other, you never suggested to Mr. Ramaphosa when he gave evidence that he was guilty of corruption, did you?
no, well, Chairperson,
so how
are
does
you
it help
suggesting?
us?
I never suggested to Mr. Ramaphosa that he did this for financial gratification. Me, it's all over the
You never
record.
suggested to him that he was.
Yeah.
Was he the? I'm not sure whether you say he was the briber or the bribee, but you never suggested to Mr. Ramaphosa in your lengthy cross-examination of him that he had contravened the provisions of the Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act 12 of 2004.
And so what, Chairperson? That means that
No, you were
A,
not.
does that mean he's not guilty of it, or B, does that mean no one else
No.
that is?
What
What's
I'm
the
saying,
point?
I have difficulty now in regarding the fact you don't make that or didn't make that allegation against Mr. Ramaphosa. Difficult to understand on what basis you're now suggesting to this witness that she was involved in what amounts to a corrupt transaction involving Mr. Ramaphosa on the one side and her on the other. So I don't understand where this cross-examination is getting us.
Well, Chairperson, with the greatest respect, I'm sure everyone else understands that if I didn't put something to Mr. Ramaphosa...
Thank you for that. Sorry, say something.
Yeah, now you
Thank you for that
interrupt.
gratuitous
I thought we
insult.
don't interrupt people,
Thank you for,
Chairperson.
no, if you
Well,
want
he
to
said I mustn't
gratuitously
interrupt him.
insult me, I suppose I just have to sit here and bear it. But
Well-
I just want you to know that I'm aware of the fact that you've done it. And I don't expect counsel of your standing at the bar to indulge in conduct of that kind. But if you want to do it, I suppose I can't stop you.
No, Chairperson, I'm saying that you gave me a lecture the other day about not interrupting. I'm still talking. And I'm saying that if the point was not put to, let's say, 4 or 5 members of some conspiracy because of constraints of time or for whatever reason, how can that disentitle me to put it to this witness? Remember, Mr. Ramaphosa was accusing of something much higher, which is murder. I'm saying to this witness that she is, if she being the minister who was influenced, remember Mr. Ramaphosa was not a member of the cabinet at the time. She was. And I'm saying to her, if she allowed herself or any member of the cabinet to be influenced politically by someone for gratification, then that minister would be guilty of corruption. There's a difference between her and him.
Yes. Are you finished now? Can I respond to you now
But,
without being accused
yes,
of interrupting
thank
Good. What exactly is the offence that you say she's guilty of? I think in fairness you must put that to her to give her an opportunity to deal with it.
I thought that's all I was doing. I've just said to her that she accept that abuse of authority of a person in that position would be unlawful. She said she's not a lawyer. So I said then I'm going to explain to her that if a person acts in terms of the new act, which obviously I'll argue, I'm not going to argue the law with the witness. I'll argue with you at the end of the case. But I'm just showing her in layman's terms that should a minister allow herself to be unduly or to be influenced or encouraged, as the Act says, by someone for financial gratification, that is that person will be guilty of the offense of corruption. It's a simple proposition.
This is a legal question. I don't think it's fair to expect an answer from the witness, but the section actually reads, now, any person who directly or indirectly accepts or agrees or offers to accept any gratification from any other person, whether for the benefit of himself or herself for the benefit of any other person, or who gives or agrees or offers to give to any other person any gratification, whether for the benefit of that other person or for the benefit of another person, in order to act personally or by influencing another person so to act in a manner which amounts to the illegal, dishonest, unauthorized, incomplete, or biased, or misuse or selling of information or material acquired in the course of the exercise, carrying out or performance of any powers, duties, and functions arising out of a constitutional, statutory, contractual, or any other legal obligation, or that amounts to, and this is the language you rely on, the abuse of a position of authority, a breach of trust, or a violation of a legal duty or set of rules. Those appear to be, and it goes on, is guilty of the offence of corruption. Those appear to be the sections you rely on. Now, it's not suggested that this witness agreed to accept any gratification. So the gratification wasn't going to come to her. So then the other side of the coin is Mr. Ramaphosa. Was he giving or agreeing, offering to give any other person any gratification? The answer to that is also no. So that's why I have mystification.
Why is the answer no, Chairperson? When I put it so squarely to Mr. Ramaphosa that when he was running around, he was doing that for financial gratification. How can that be?
Well,
how do we know the answer before?
Well, I'm inclined to think that the construction you're putting on the section is incorrect. But I don't think we need to argue it now.
No.
It's something you can argue at the end of the matter. I'm not going to allow you to ask this witness any more questions on the matter because, as Mr. Bardenwell said, her views on the matter aren't going to take it any further. But I'll give you the fullest opportunity to argue in the written heads that you submit to us in
That's fine.
what you say in this regard.
Yeah. Well, just for you, Chairperson, let me, for your purposes now, we'll peg it for later, as you say. Gratification is defined in the section if you go to page
I've read
643,
I've read
and
the
it
definition
includes
section.
any loss, financial loss, which I cross-examined extensively on. But that's fine. If we don't want to ask the witness, we don't want to ask the witness.
No, I'm not interested with respect in her answers to the question. I understand you may want to argue the point later. You can do so in the written heads you file. But I'm not going to allow you to ask any more questions of this witness on the point because I don't think her answers are going to contribute to the debate at any
Yeah,
point. So let's
well,
carry on.
okay, that's fine. Then let me do this, Minister, then without you giving you the benefit without giving you the benefit of explaining what I'm going to say. I'm going to argue at the end of the case that you are guilty of corruption in terms of at least the section that I read to you, which is Section 3 of the Act. Do you have any comment?
Mr. Chairman, that's his own view. May I say the Commission will make the finding? I'm here to present to the Commission.
Yes. And I'll also say that because...
The judgment of the Commission of the point, you're not giving your own views. Let's carry
I'll
on
also...
with the next point.
thank you. I'll also say that you knew exactly what the reason for the change in characterization was, which was to facilitate the high-handed action, or what was called in one of the passages that Ms. Pillay put to you, the full might of the state and the army and the police and all those things. That's what Lonmin wanted, and you knew that changing the characterization, that's what it would bring.
Mr. Chairman, once more, I don't work for Lonmin. No, they have communicated those issues they raised with me, and therefore I can't see myself in the space which Mr. Mpofu is saying.
Well, I'm saying that you knew that what the characterization would do it was going to be to militarize the situation and bring about violence, state-sponsored violence.
Well,
Did you know that?
I didn't know, Mr. Chairman.
Well, okay, now then I'm going to put it, you must have known that that is what it would do, because somebody said this: you must kill the bastards if they threaten you or the community. You must not worry about the regulations. I want no warning shots. You have one shot and it must be a kill shot. I want to assure the police station commissioners and policemen and women from these areas that they have permission to kill these criminals. I will not tolerate any pathetic excuses for you not being able to deal with crime. You have been given guns. Now use them. If criminals dare to threaten the police or the livelihood of lives of innocent men, women, and children, then they must be killed. Who said that?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mpofu is very pathetic.
That's not an answer to the question. He put a quotation to you, which I suspect is a quotation from a speech you made when you were Deputy Minister of Police in 2008. Am I right?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Right. So that he put the quotation. Do you know what's the follow-up from that quotation?
Who said those words?
So she admits it. I put it to her. She said it and she agrees. So you can carry on to the next point.
She said what?
I put it to her that she said it when she was Deputy Minister of Police in 2008,
Okay.
and she agreed. So
Yes.
you don't have to ask that again.
Do you? All right, thank you. The chairperson put the question that I put to you. Do you think that he's pathetic? Well, because he put the same question. Okay, thank you. Right. Fine.
Sorry.
Now, the point I'm putting to you, Minister, is that you said that people must be killed. There must be no warning shots. They have one shot and it must be a kill shot. That they have permission to kill the criminals. You will not tolerate any excuses. They've been given guns, now they must use them. And if criminals dare to threaten the police, they must be killed. And therefore, what I'm saying is that you knew that the recharacterization of what was going on at Lonmin, of those people to criminals, would bring them within the ambit of your statement, namely that they must be killed. What do you say to that?
Mr. Chairman, I refuse to answer that.
I don't think you have a choice.
With respect,
Mr. Barnard?
Mr. Chairman, I had understood that precisely the same debate had previously been raised and the Commission had made a ruling in relation to the question being raised by our learned friend for the evidence leaders. As with respect, the Chairman had pointed out, whatever the comments might later on be...
It was counsel for the Legal Resources Centre who asked the question, and I didn't allow it to be put. So, in effect, you're asking me to reaffirm my ruling in the case.
As it
question put
pleases
now
you.
by Mr. Mpofu. What do you say about that, Mr. Mpofu?
No, Chairperson. The question that was put by Mr. Ngqaitobi was different. He was saying that, I think in 2000...
Ngqaitobi, I think is the
Mr.
correct
Ngqaitobi, yes. What he was saying was that there was some report, which I'm also in possession of, that dealt with these matters. And the chairperson correctly pointed out that that report referred to a particular period. I'm busy dealing with this issue of characterization. And this line of questioning was allowed when I put it to Mr. Ramaphosa, who was not even a maker of the statements. So it cannot be disallowed when I'm talking to the maker of the statement. All I'm saying is that in terms of her statement, the characterization of something as criminal would bring about the fact that those people must be killed. That's what she said, not Mr. Ramaphosa, not anyone else.
Let me put the question that you were putting, as I understand, to the witness, and let's see what her answer is. Mr. Mpofu is putting the following proposition to you. He's saying, I'm paraphrasing it. In 2008, you made a statement which attracted quite a lot of unfavorable publicity at the time, in which you urged the police to act in the way that he read. But to do that to criminals, that's what you said. What exactly you meant, So it's neither here nor there. That's what you said. And what he's saying to you, he's putting this proposition to you. He says, because you were prepared to accept the characterization that the strikers, or some of them, were criminals because they were guilty of criminal acts, that meant that you were in effect saying they must be treated, because they are, quote, criminals, unquote, in the way that you had said the police must act in that speech you made in 2008. Now, did you intend that consequence to follow from your approach to accept that the conduct of which some of the strikers were guilty amounted to criminal conduct? Is that was your intention when you made that statement?
Mr. Chairman, there was never an intention of classifying a labor dispute to be the same as criminals who carry guns, AK-47, killing police. It can never be characterized as the same. It's completely different situations, and the context are completely different.
No, I'm afraid it's not that easy. In your statement, you did not just talk about people killing police. You actually said in your favor that if criminals threaten the police, but say all the livelihood or lives of innocent men, women, and children, they must be killed. So you never confined it to police killers. Be that as it may, these people were also labeled as police killers.
For what it's worth, again, you may have all the material you need to make submission to the end. What the witnesses said, whether you accept her evidence or not, is neither here nor there. You may well contend that the evidence she gives mustn't be accepted. What she says is when she said that some of the strikers have been guilty of criminal conduct, she didn't intend to bring into operation against them these remarks that she'd made in 2008. You may say that that's not correct. You may make all sorts of submissions in that regard. But that's the answer she's given. I don't know that one can take it any further at this stage.
Well,
particularly regard being had to the fact that your time is limited, and I'm sure you will have other points you want to raise before your time runs out.
And I also want to put to you that when Mr. Jamieson said that he had had 2 discussions with the DG, and in each case characterized this not as industrial issue, but a civil unrest, destabilization, criminal issue which could not be resolved without political intervention and needs the situation to be stabilized by the police or the army. Those exactly are the words that were used by Mr. Ramaphosa that he says you agreed with under oath.
Mr. Chairman, the discussion between employees or directors of Lonmin in written correspondence don't characterize my interaction with Mr. Ramaphosa. Therefore, it has nothing to do with me because I have nothing to do with Lonmin or any beneficiary or become a beneficiary to any matters of Lonmin.
Yes, but when you made your statement as a leader, it would have obviously influenced the police men on the ground, correct?
I'm not a minister of police. I don't have influence on the police.
No. When you made the statement, you were the deputy minister of police, it would have influenced the policemen on the ground as you were their leader, yes or no?
Well, the leader in terms of the constitution is the minister.
And the deputy leader is not a leader.
I don't know how, I understand the point you're putting, but I don't know how it's going to help us. It's a point you can argue. Whether she realized at the time, because she was deputy minister, the police would listen, is a matter which may be of interest elsewhere, but I'm not sure it's of interest to us. She said certain things. They may, objectively speaking, have had a consequence in inducing certain beliefs on the part of the police. Whether she intended that or not isn't really relevant. If it had that result, it may well have had unfortunate consequences. I don't know there's any point in investigating with her further. Your time is running out. If you've got any other points which you consider to be of substance to put to her, I suggest you put them to her in the time still available to you.
Yeah. Okay. Did Mr. Ramaphosa in the email on, I think it's BBB 4.5.
That on the screen. I think it should be put on the screen. What exactly is the exhibit number?
No, it's not on the screen.
It's not on the screen. I suggest you put it on the screen. Tell the operator what the exhibit number is, and he will put it up for the witness to see.
You say that...
What's the exhibit number, Mr. Is it the... Which one is it?
289E.
Give us the dates and give us the time.
it's 2:58 p.m.
It's
Yeah.
the one we now have on the screen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You say that you had the meeting with Mr. Ramaphosa in the morning, correct? And Mr. Ramaphosa said in that email that he had, this is about 3 p.m., and he said, I've just had a discussion with Susan Shabangu. Well, firstly, is he allowed to just call you by your name without any title? Is that the kind of relationship?
Well, surely in private correspondence with third parties, he can call it what he likes. But have you known him for a long time?
I've known Mr. Cyril for a very, very long time.
Mr. Chairman. What do you call him? Do you call him Mr. Ramaphosa, sir? What do you call him when you speak to him?
Mr. Chairman, I called him Cyril.
What does he call you?
He calls me Susan.
There we are.
Well, he never calls you Minister Shabangu.
Well, in official situations, he would refer to me as a minister.
And in other situations?
Well,
If you go
he's
to
my-
28.9D, he says, I will stress that Minister Shabangu should have a discussion with Roger. Have you known him for a long time?
I think
She said she has. She said
Yeah,
she
no,
wants
I'm
to
just
stay in
being
touch.
facetious.
Oh, you really, Mr. Paul. You know,
Yeah, no, I
I'm
mean-
sure you can ask questions that will help us to write our report. I don't find these questions helpful.
So, you don't know under which situations he calls you Minister Shabangu and others where he calls you Susan
I
Shabangu?
don't disallow that question. I have the power to disallow questions on the ground that
Well,
answers
that's
are not
fine.
likely to be sufficient
That's
probative
fine.
value.
Well,
I
it's
suggest you ask
relevant.
questions in a more pointed way.
Well, Chairperson, this is not a joke, by the way. Yeah, it's if someone is going to influence another one politically, it's relevant what the hierarchical relationship between them is. Some might think this is a joke, but it's not.
Jack, she's already said they were on first name terms.
Well, I'm showing
In
you that.
official context, he might call her minister, but when they meet each other, they
Anyway,
call each other by
it's
their
fine.
first names. We've
To
got
say-
that evidence on record.
Yeah, well,
Surely
okay.
there are other better points you
Yeah,
can advance
it's
in the
not
time
a-
available.
Okay, yeah, all right. Well, it's not a joke, a laughing matter. But he says that you had just had a discussion with him. Was that correct or not?
I've confirmed that it's true, Mr. Chairman.
And the time was 3 p.m.
Something that obviously can't have been right, because he says she'll be in Johannesburg by 5 p.m. Now, we all know it takes 2 hours, 10 minutes at least. You have to be at the airport about an hour before. So if she was going to be in Johannesburg by 5 p.m., she would have had to leave before 3. She was at the airport before 2. So he couldn't have just have had the discussion with her. Obviously, it was an inaccurate expression. Whether it was really... What time did you say you saw him?
In the morning before half past 10.
Whether it was before 10
Half past
or
10.
a little bit later, Mr. Ramaphosa must have been wrong there, if you just work out how long it takes to get to Johannesburg from Cape Town.
Well,
is this going to help us to answer the questions in the terms of reference?
Yes, it will, Chairperson,
All right.
because it's
You'll
important.
You'll deal with it in your heads of argument. All right,
No.
let's carry on cross-examining.
I'm sorry, Chairperson. I suggested to Mr. Ramaphosa that he had performed a miraculous feat, if you remember, which he, of converting a minister from a particular characterization in the space of 5 hours. That's what I said. It turns out now from this witness that he did so in 5 minutes. Now, if you think that is not important, that he had the power to change a Minister of State's characterization in 5 minutes, as opposed to the 5 hours that I had suggested to him, then, well,
Well, you could argue that
maybe I'm
she's
wrong.
already said that she already was of that mind before he spoke to her. But anyway, let's move on to a point that will help us to write the report.
Anyway, just to confirm, you said...
Sorry, Mr. Wesley, how much longer is Mr. Pofu got?
Chair, there's 8 minutes.
8 minutes, fine.
Yeah.
You'll bear that in mind.
Well, I'm sure maybe Mr. Wesley can give us the time if I was allowed to just carry on. You accept that one of the key things for you as Minister of Minerals was to ensure that the human dignity of the workers is restored. That's part of the transformation process. The mining industry had almost taken all their human dignity away, correct?
Mr. Chairman, that is defined in our constitution of the country.
Making the point that as Minister of Mineral Resources, the mining industry came under you, you were regulating it. And one of the things you had to look to was that the dignity of miners was respected. And I take it that's something that you did.
What?
In line with the constitution?
Yes, in line with the constitution.
Yes.
Yes. And the workers have said that one of the issues that concerned them and where their dignity was being violated was the fact that the employer was not prepared to even talk to them. You'd agree that one of the ways to affirm someone's dignity would be to listen and talk to them, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
And you took no steps when you were interacting with the shareholders of Lonmin to ascertain that they give an ear to the workers.
Well, Mr. Chairman, they interacted with me. They are the ones, as the correspondence indicates, which I have alluded to.
And you yourself...
Answering the question, I think you would let her complete.
And
Please
further, if you look at the various or my submission was that one of the ways was to talk to the chamber, which then facilitated a process. That's part of engagement.
And we've established that even when you went to Marikana, you yourself took no steps to give them any kind of hearing, the workers.
Well, I'm not sure, Mr. Chairman, where was I going to give a hearing to the workers, because at that time they were at the copy.
Yeah, then you'd give them a hearing at the copy. You took no steps. No
When
such
did you
steps.
go to the copy? When did you go to Marikana?
On the 17th in the
17th,
morning.
the shooting was already over on the 16th. When you went on the 17th, after the killings on the 16th, did you receive any requests from any of the strikers to give you that you should give them an interview?
Well, the strikers from NUM did ask to see me.
Did you see them?
Yes, I did, Mr. Chairman.
Any other strikers asked to see you?
No further request was made, Mr. Chairman.
Do you think that as a minister, when there's a problem, you need to be invited, as the chairperson is suggesting? Wouldn't you take the initiative to address the two sides to the problem?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think all parties have the right to approach one another. If you understand the situation, I would not have gone to the copy.
Yes, but you address Lonmin without them having given you a special invitation. Correct?
Well, the president said I must go and find out what is going on.
Yes, what is going on was that, according to you, Lonmin was having a wage dispute with its workers. So you only spoke to one side of that equation.
Mr. Chairman, if you understood the situation on the day, I don't think I would have been able to go there, including the police were not allowed there.
No, the police were there the following day to supervise a meeting by a political leader. But anyway, one of the ways in which the restoration of the dignity of the workers would be through giving them a stake in the mining companies that they work for, correct?
Mr. Chairman, it's up to individual engagements who define and determine the space.
No. I'm asking you the question whether in your view, as someone who was entrusted with transformation, and you said, which included empowering historically disadvantaged individuals, would one of the ways to do that be to give the workers a stake or shareholding in the mining companies?
Mr. Chairman, that space gets defined by the parties which are engaged.
Okay, let me put it this way, maybe more in a more pointed way. I'm going to criticize you for having allowed, during your tenure, a situation where Mr. Ramaphosa's company acquired a stake where the workers had a shareholding and narrowed it to a stake which should be held by a few fat cats. That act contributed directly or indirectly to the tragedy.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that the situation is up to the parties. Same, and that's his opinion, and same as he has shares in some assets of mining.
No.
I don't think that's the direction we should go, Ms. Shabangu. The proposition he's put to you, I think it's one of his closing points because his time's running out, is he says to you there was a share transaction, in terms whereof individual miners had shares, they lost them, we don't know the circumstances, and their place was taken by a number of people whom he describes in a way I don't have to repeat, one of whom was Mr. Ramaphosa, and they then got a substantial parcel of shares in Lonmin. He says the result, having said that, he then moves on to the next point, and he suggests that that was causally connected in some way with the troubles that arose at Lonmin during the period that we're busy with in August 2012. And he asks you whether you agree with that. I think that's a fair summary of what he said.
It is a fair summary.
Well, time is up, but let's get the witness's answer before we...
Well, Mr. Chairman, I must say that in my understanding, at the level of what was declared by the company to the DMR, at that time, the workers didn't have shares with Lonmin. What had shares was the tribal or the traditional leader or the clan in that particular area had shares with the company. And what you'd also find is that they were working on an ESOP, which is an employer owner share scheme at that point.
Well, I put it to you that the workers, and fortunately there's a worker who's currently on the stand, who says, and Mr. Ramaphosa confirmed this, that the workers' share was liquidated by his company that they had held at Ngwala. And all I'm saying to you is that I'm making the proposition that had the workers had a stake in the company and by extension been represented on the board of Lonmin, the chances would have been higher that they would have been engaged because they would have had representation there. And that strike, and I dare say even the 5-month strike that we've just come out of, might not have happened because they had a stake in the company, and it would be they would be hurting themselves, as it were, by striking and reducing the profit of the or the dividend.
Well, you've heard the point. So we're going to adjourn in a moment, but let's get your answer to that question first. Please answer it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Ingwala transaction, when I came into the department, was a failure and it had collapsed. So it never took off. It's one of those transactions, by virtue of their construction, where we're not going to be successful. So Ingwala transaction, which is referring to, never succeeded, no, got off the ground.
So
you say that there's no causal connection between the collapse of the Inkwala transaction and the subsequent troubles which took place in August 2012 and have brought us here today. Is that your answer?
That's my answer, Mr. Chairman.
So that means you would be, generally speaking, in support of a so-called broad-based PE transaction that actually narrows the scope of beneficiaries to exclude the workers.
Mr. Chairman, in Nwala, by virtue of its structure, it was a non-starter because it was structured in a way that would not have allowed it to take off.
Okay.
Let me further say, Mr. Chairman, this transaction, it did not happen during my time. It happened before. So when I came in 2009, already it was a failure. It was in tatters. It couldn't take
Yes. No, I accept that. If I can just
Last question, Mr. Mpofu.
Yes, Chairperson. I also put to you that your answer that when you were addressing the NUM meeting and you referred to a force that is bound to destroy the ANC and so on, that you were not referring to Lonmin, you were referring to AMCU, and your answer to that effect is you are being untruthful.
This last question, what's your answer to that?
Mr. Chairman, I've been a trade unionist. I will never refer to other workers as counter to or being in opposition or trying to discourage them. They've got the right. That is why even in my speech, I mentioned the right to associate. And I think earlier on I elaborated that the biggest challenge in Lonmin at that time was the management. And there was a perception that management is there to destroy work or to divide workers. That's what I said earlier on. And I stand by that.
All right, thank you.
Well,
All right, Mr.
Chairperson,
Mpofu,
if I can just follow up on this, please. I'm going to put just two propositions, Chairperson.
no, Mr. Mpofu, I'm sorry. I've given you more time than you
Chairperson,
allotted to you.
I'm sorry, Chairperson.
I'm
too.
sorry too, but I'm not going to allow you to
Well,
continue. We will now take the adjournment.
Chairperson, I must put on record that this is unfair to the people I represent. This commission has been allowed to reduce the number of times that other people are saying. It's grossly unfair.